The BFG by Roald Dahl, Chapter 2, Who? This is the third video. Look, I'm going to propose a different kind of exercise now. I'm going to reread the last chapter, but the scope of the last video, and then I will stop a little and I would like you to try to say just the word I'm hiding, okay? You don't need to pause the video because I'll give you some seconds and then I'll say the word. You got it? Okay, and of course you cannot follow with anything with the text, right? Okay, so the giant was moving on the street and etc. Then it would slide onto the next house and stop again and peer in, and so on all along the street. It was much closer now, and Sophie could see it more clearly. Looking at it carefully, she decided it had to be some kind of giant person. Obviously, it was not a human, but it was definitely a person. A giant person. Perhaps. I realize, of course, that some of the words are very hard, right? But don't worry, just see how many points you can get. Sophie, I want to say like, look, Sophie stared hard across the misty moonlit. Of course, this is just half of the word street. The giant, if that was what he was wearing a long black cloak in one hand, and he was holding what looked like a very long, thin trumpet. In the other hand, he held a large suitcase. The giant had stopped now right in front of Mr. and Mrs. Gucci's house. The Gucci's had a greengrocer's shop in the middle of the high street, and the family lived above the shop. The two Gucci children slept in the upstairs front room. Sophie knew that. The giant was peering through the window into the room where Michael and Jane Gucci were sleeping. From across the street, Sophie watched, and this is one of the most important, try it, held her breath. She saw the giant step back a pace. A pace is like a step, but it would be strange, step back a step, right? Could be she saw the giant taking a step back, then it's okay. Well, but remember, so the giant stopped in front of the window, then it stepped back a pace and put the suitcase down on the pavement, on the sidewalk. He bent over and opened the suitcase. He took something out of it, something out of the suitcase. It looked like a glass jar. You know, jar like if you buy pickles or if you buy jam, they come. I think I have a jar to show you. I'm so didactic. See, guys, I planned it, right? This is kind of dirty, but this is a jar, all right? This is a jar. This is going to be important. Okay, so the giant took something out of the suitcase. It was a jar. It looked like a glass jar. One of those square ones. Unfortunately, mine is not square one, you know, like this. But it's very similar to the one we have in the story because it has a screw top. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is a screw top, okay? Because it's a top, I can screw. I don't need to screw a lot. It's just like shoop, 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 right? But I don't know, if you get a bottle, then you have to screw it, right? Okay. So it doesn't enter with pressure, for example, right? It had a screw top. So the giant unscrewed the top of the jar and pour. Pour is like this mainly for liquid, right? So imagine this is the trumpet, all right? Yeah, I don't have anything better here to be the trumpet. Okay, so he unscrewed the jar, the top of the jar, and poured what was in it into the end of the long trumpet thing. Oh, so let's imagine this is the part that goes to my mouth. So this part is like more open, right? So he poured the thing here, all right? So remember now that whatever was in the jar is here in the trumpet, right? So let me just put my jar here. Now I just have my trumpet here in my hand. And then what happened? Sophie watched trembling, like shaking violently. She saw the giant. The giant was like that, you know, pouring things, opening things. So she saw the giant straightening up, okay? You can straighten up your seat on an airplane, for example. So she saw the giant straightening up again and saw him poke the trumpet thing in through the open upstairs window of the room. So here's the window. He put the trumpet inside, right? Poke in other contexts is like this. You can poke a person, right? Say, hey, 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 hey. Okay, so the giant poked the trumpet in through the open stairs window of the room where the Gucci children were sleeping. She saw the giant take a deep breath, right? We saw hold your breath. Now take a deep breath and woof, he blew, which is the past of blow, okay? He blew through the trumpet, right? No noise came out, but it was obvious to Sophie that whatever had been in the jar had now been blown. So whatever was in the jar had been blown. Somebody blew, of course the giant, right? This is passive voice. Had been blown through the trumpet into the Gucci children's bedroom. What could it be? As the giant withdrew is the past of withdraw. Let me give you another context for withdraw. You can go to the bank and you can withdraw money, you know? It's the opposite of deposit. You don't deposit your money there, you withdraw. When you withdraw, for example, the trumpet, you take the trumpet out, right? As the giant withdrew the trumpet from the window and bent down to pick up the suitcase, he happened to turn his head and glance across the street. He happened, it's like by accident, he didn't plan to, you know, by accident, he turned his head and glance is like a fast look, across the street. And then my friend, who was across the street,